Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
Hey guys, I'm learning things. Hang on. We're going to hide that. Yes. That was awesome. How's it going? How are you guys tonight? Hopefully, this will be a pretty fun one tonight. So what I wanted to do is, most of you know how this kind of works in their 1% tribe, where we kind of pick a different topic. So each week we do something from the herbal realm or nutrition realm, and then the next week we pick some kind of movement type situation, which we did last week. And then this week we want to do something in the power of our mind. And so tonight, I think you're going to really like it. What I did is I went through the top, basically the words that were coming up for 2025, and where really focusing on health. And a few of them, they're normal, gonna get back at it, all those different things you hear at this time of year. But one that was key, it was like one of the top 4 or 5 for me, was restoration. I thought that was a really, really good word to understand how chiropractic and the chiropractic philosophy that we teach here kind of leads us down a different path that I don't hear a lot. So before we start it should be pretty good. So hopefully you guys are all having a great Sunday. I loved it. It was fantastic. Got to have a little late Christmas with my fam. So got a couple of them. One of my big powerful brother, Ryan, wants to be a regular on this bad boy. So I'm going to make sure that I get him a link so he can come with us all the time. So that would be fantastic. Because I really want this to be an interactive thing, like as we go, asking questions as we go. Those are amazing situations where if we can do that, that would be amazing. So as we do it, and I'm kind of addicted, so that's how that goes. Okay. So the 3 things I found in the literature this week, and one of them there's 2 of them on here that we're going to go over on Wednesday night. So remember Wednesday night, I'm starting to do one called Whole Health Weekly. And so that one is just about new articles and the newest, latest, greatest. I came across this with kids, like some of the athletes I was taking care of. It's pretty cool when you get to talk to an athlete. They don't know what to ask, a doctor and all that stuff. And then they're asking my opinion on, like, let's say creatine, because that was the latest and greatest TikTok situation. And a lot of these kids that are athletes have a lot more access to good information, actually, than they used to. So like when I was a kid, we didn't have any access to a lot of the nutritional stuff. And a lot of these kids are learning and understanding how to eat better, and but they need a little guide sometimes. They don't want to know if something was there. So it kind of sparked in my head. I'm like, man, I hear these things all the time. So that's what Wednesday night I try to make it. I think I'm gonna make it at 6:30, dependent on my daughter's basketball schedule. So if it gets moved, I'll probably still do it, but maybe move it to Tuesday. It just depends on what day, that's happening for her. So I'm having a blast with this, guys. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. So these are the three, and two of them we probably will talk about this Wednesday in a little more in depth. But these are just things to keep in mind. People have heard about interval training, but not a lot of people put in interval walking. So interval walking, the idea of interval is that you go slow for a certain point or a certain time frame, and then you go fast for another time frame. Typically, sometimes they call it Tabata. Sometimes there's many different ways to do this kind of interval walking. You can look it up. There's lots of different ways to do it. Interval walking is where you walk at a normal pace for a certain amount of time. Let's say that pace that you walk for a minute. And then the next 2 minutes, maybe 30 seconds. Let's do that. Let's say the first minute you're walking at a normal pace. The next 30 seconds, you're going at a brisk pace, right? So a lot of people do this in running. This is the key. Interval training is the way that people do what they used to call couch to 5K. That entire situation is interval to get to that 5K. But it's super, super good for you. And it allows you to do, like get that cardiovascular without, busting up your joints and all those kind of things, like just going out and running if you haven't ran in years, right? And interval training is huge on your whole body because that's how we're designed to work in intervals. So what it's shown is the interval walking improves cardiovascular system, so your heart, which we kind of knew, right? But immune system as well, because as you're going and getting out there in Battle Creek, if you're near here, we got a sweet mall that has a lot of good stuff in there. Like you can walk around pretty good and be entertained as you do it. I recommend that highly. You don't get hit by cars, those kind of things. You have to, those kind of situations are a little rough that way. So, but if you do interval type training, I see Ryan might be out here. So we talk about this a lot. We do, if you want to go higher pace, you can do some interval stuff on like a treadmill bike it's used for. Okay. So just look up interval training and you'll get some great ideas. A lot of work gets done in a short period of time. So that's what is awesome. But it's really good for cardiovascular system, your immune system, and your mental. So your mind health as well, which all walking does that. So that's really good. Here's one on high fructose corn syrup, one of our blasts from the past. It's always one of those fun ones. High fructose corn syrup. Remember, they've changed the name of this stuff like 1,000 times. Terrible for your body. Causes these trans fats that we don't need in our body. Terrible. So if we can stay away from that and stay with, it's what makes it sugary. That's not real sugar. Okay. So when you have fake sugar, we have issues. So we have to get rid of the fake sugar, get to a real sugar, right? Real sugar, like honey, actual sugar, cane sugar, cane sugar. Beet sugar is good. Maple syrup, those kind of things. Oh yeah. Well, I'll get to that, Ryan, in just a sec. So that high fructose corn syrup is something to stay away from because now there's a study that says it speeds up tumor growth if there's like a cancerous situation. So just remember that like high fructose corn syrup, that's a big deal. That's a big deal because, sometimes that stuff is super addictive as well. So Ryan added too, interval, but have a way to check your heart rate, which is a really good idea. And we had a discussion yesterday about this. When you do certain things, if you are able to find out what your peak heart rate is, that gives you a lot of information We'll do a whole show on this, actually, Ryan. I promise, because that whole thing, one of the bigger goals in your life right now is to find out what your heart rate is, your peak heart rate or your max. So you want to push yourself to that max and then drop it down to get to your resting heart rate. Oh, excuse me. I don't know where that came from. That was awesome. Must have been the good stuff. All right. So those are two things to just remind. Calcium, magnesium, making sure that they're the right levels. Okay. So like we talked about a lot of calcium in tinnitus and vertigo situation, right? Too much calcium can go the other way. So we want to make sure we know what our balance is. But calcium, half the population of the world is low in calcium. And another 50, then the same, about 40% of the world is low in magnesium. So those are two critical ones to get under control because it has major impacts on your cognitive health. So you're seeing it with dementia and Parkinson's, forgetful, those kind of things can have major impacts. According to this last study, the calcium, magnesium being too low could do that. Okay. So those are the 3 articles I found this week. Just kind of inspiring you to get out there and know a little bit more. If you have any questions on there, put it in the comments. But let's get to the word that I've chosen for this year, 2025. It's the word restoration. All right. So restoration is fascinating. Think of restoring a car. Think of that when we're going through all this. Oh, by the way, my tea of choice. Oh, speaking of that. Wait. Before we start, I want to do something really cool. If you're not real tech savvy, it's okay. I have figured out something. If you ever want like a calcium, magnesium good supplement, you don't have one that you're sure of, those kind of things. This is the website. In that corner, there's this QR code. And if you are skilled in the art of scanning that is Fullscript. So Fullscript is the place that I go because of Dr. Lodog. So Dr. Lodog is the person that's been herbal training me. I try to take all of her courses, as many as I can. And she is one of many naturopaths that are on this board, and they vet like 20,000 supplement companies, and they make sure all the stuff is legit. It runs just like Amazon, and you can have an app and everything else. Prices are as good, if not better, than in there. And I think that if you get that QR code in mind, I think it gives you 5 to 10% off right away. So just remember that. It comes right to your door, all those kind of things. I was super pumped when I saw that. It would make it a lot easier for people. So, all right, let's get moving. Oh, wait, comments. Good question. Okay, so Ryan has a question. Does lactose-free milk contain equal calcium? Let me look that up, actually. That's a really good question. I will find that out. I'll find that information out because I want to say yes, because all you're doing is reducing the lactose within the milk. So the calcium's probably still there. I would 90% sure say yes, the calcium would be there in that milk. Lactose free is they're taking out this enzyme, right? So they're taking out this enzyme that's something in your body that doesn't allow, like breaking that down. But I don't think you will lose calcium in that. So that's my guess right now, but I will research that because I like saying I don't know, because this is why restoration is so important too, because it's a journey, guys. It's always been a journey. That's why I got a little cool road to recovery. All right. So what we're going to go over tonight is how the idea of restoration can be the word to focus on in this new year. Why a philosophy of health and healing based on the intelligence of the body is key to a long, healthy life. The philosophy of using the word restoration can lead you to a new understanding of health and healing. Okay. The definition of restoration. Okay. So think in terms, I want you to think of 2 things tonight. I want you to think of restoring a car, but not just any car. I want you to pick your what is that show? Oh, it's my favorite, one of my favorite shows. Gone in 60 Seconds. Pick your favorite car. So you got a 69 Corvette, red, beautiful, and now you're going to restore that. Okay. So I want you to go there. And how does that equate to our human body? Okay. So this is an act of restoring or the condition of being restored, such as a bringing back to a former position or condition, a reinstatement. Okay. That'll be important later. So I'll want to make sure you understand the word restoration. Why is this concept so important? Because of the power of our innate intelligence within us. Okay. So innate intelligence, we're going to go into that because it's the near and dear to all of the chiropractic philosophy's heart. Innate intelligence is defined as a living thing that has an inborn intelligence within it. Okay, that is called innate intelligence. So our inborn intelligence within every single cell, we have an intelligence built in, and that's called innate intelligence. All right, and this is critical to understanding the role of true health as we go forward. All right. So let's go through restoring a car. So restoring a car, you're going to have original parts, but you're going to have to go get those parts. And you're trying to get this car to original form and function. Okay. So we're trying to get this car right, but we might not have all the parts. Restoring a home, you're trying to bring it back to its original form. You may have to use new parts too, right? In a home where you're using new wood, you're using new paint, those kind of things. But you're replacing the new or the old with the new. But you're still trying to restore it to the same look, right? Restoring a human, though, is that possible? Not if you believe the medical paradigm of the sickness model. Okay. So if we believe that our conditions in our human body is, as we age, it just is going to start deteriorating, you cannot believe in this restorative function of your human body, which it absolutely does have. Okay. So remember that as we go. Getting the human back to its original form, can that even be possible with growth, with those kind of things? The answer is actually yes. We can get really, really close, better than you'd ever imagine in the sense of how this works. Okay. So I'm not saying go back to when you're a baby and all those little cells there, right? I'm talking about the cells of your human body have the ability and the intelligence to create an environment that allows us to be the best we could be, right? And so as we age, we're going to talk about that, like why that happens. Why don't we stay the same youthful appearance all the time? Why is my hair gray, right? So those are things that we have to understand as we go forward. The cells of the human body they have this life force, and as long as they have this life force, this intelligence within it, we have a chance to have really good function as those cells continue down the path of time. Okay, the key to health is understanding that it is a journey, and this intelligence, you have to give the intelligence the ability to do these things. Okay. And that's the way we can do this, restoring to a perfect healing ability. Are we always going to have this important healing ability? This, is it going to be perfect all the time? Absolutely not. Right. That's the idea. As we age, think of your body as one of my favorite quotes is, we have our cells regenerate. Okay. So this is what this slide's about. Our cells will actually replace themselves throughout our lifetime. Every single cell in the human body replaces itself within our lifetime. Okay. If not multiple times in our lifetime. And that's what we're going to go over. And so let's do this. The skin cells, the outer layer of the skin, the epidermis, is constantly renewing itself. Constantly, the skin is moving. The top layer of skin cells is replaced every 10 days to 30 days. That's huge. That's a bunch of replacing every 10 to 30 days the skin of your body, the epidermis, the top layer. There's 7 layers of skin layers, by the way. But the top layer gets replaced every 10 to 30 days. Another one that's interesting is the liver cells. Liver cells, or hepatocytes, have a high regenerative capacity. They can regenerate at a rate where the liver can restore itself to full size within weeks to months after significant damage or partial removal. So think about that. Your entire liver can actually replace itself in that time, weeks to months, guys, the entire thing. Something happens where you have to have part of your liver removed, you can get it replaced. That's insane. This is data. This is like actual science. So remember that. Oh man. Oh yeah. Ryan put in there. Look at older bodybuilders. That's very true. Bodybuilders, they sometimes, if they don't use little tricks and cheaters, they end up getting to keep a lot of that situation. That's why you're seeing a lot of these guys start going away from the chemicals that made them these big, huge bodybuilders, and then they got to lose it all. So the more natural you stay, the better off you'll do in that situation. Bone cells, bone remodeling, where old bone tissue is replaced by new, occurs throughout your life. Osteoblasts are bone forming cells, and osteoclasts are cells that break down bone. They work in tandem, but a lot of bone cells, they take months to years. Okay. And I've seen it. I can't tell you scientifically that I could prove it, without an actual like controlled clinical trial or anything else. But I have witnessed arthritis get better. I have, and this is just me telling you this, but it has happened. Our degenerative arthritis, which is arthritis, the osteoblast, building more bone. I've seen improvement in repair. And a lot of times it's a very strict person that's doing, let's say they're doing chiropractic on a regular basis, getting their joints healthy again, constantly moving, making those subtle changes that need to happen. And then your body has these osteoclasts and osteoblasts. And if they're working together, they can give you better joint stuff throughout your body. But that one takes a long time. That one takes, it says, months to years. Could be years before you see any kind of change like that. All right. So I'll go through all these. Red blood cells. Red blood cells, all of them, the red blood cells have a lifespan about 120 days. And they're continually produced in the bone marrow. White blood cells, their lifespan varies depending on what type of cell they are. Okay. Neutrophils only last like a couple days. And then lymphocytes, which are the ones that give you kind of that natural immunity, they could live for years with this great memory of what you've been exposed to. Okay. So red blood cells, 120 days, your bone marrow has to produce. You can see how your body works in coordination. So if your bones are having issues, right, chiropractic wise, joint wise, are they going to produce the red blood cells you want them to? Maybe not. You never know. White blood cells, they have a various life. Neutrophils are like real quick, where they come in, they're out, they die off, then you build some more. Lymphocytes can live for years. Intestinal cells, this is an interesting one. And I'll tell you why this is interesting. The lining of the intestines, particularly in the small intestine, regenerates very quickly, with some cells turning every few days due to harsh environment they are exposed to. Interesting, huh? So intestinal cells are very important in today's age, especially right now. One of the reasons is because our gut is getting assaulted by the stuff that is going into our mouths, and having a bad gut microbiome that gut microbiome lives in near these intestinal cells in symbiotic relationship, which means they're working together as a team. But if you don't have all the gut bacteria that you're supposed to, enemies of the state get into the intestinal wall and the intestinal linings, and you have major issues show up. One of the reasons why, we can't figure out why this keeps happening is because we're not looking at the gut microbiome as a teammate with these intestinal wall cells. And because those two aren't working together, then we get intestinal wall damages. Okay. So we have to think that way. Okay. And they turn over quick if there's some major crap going on. So, like, what happens is a lot of times with people with different gut intestinal issues, they have major turnover and how do you get that back? You got to have the right acidity. You have to have the right, all of those things. So this is a critical place. And one reason why when people work with me to get their gut microbiome fixed, they feel so different and almost scary to go back to the old way of eating because it feels so good and so different to your body. And this is one of the places I really see a big difference in just people's reactions. Neurons. This one's a tough one, for people with nerve damage, all those kind of things. Traditionally thought to have very limited regenerative. So they used to think that neurons did not regenerate very well in adults at all. But recent research suggests that some neurogenesis, creation of new neurons, can occur in certain brain areas like the hippocampus, although at a slower rate compared to other cells. Neurons, depending on the damage, because these are big big cells, traditionally wasn't looked at, like if somebody severed their spinal cord or, those kind of things. Traditionally, you would say they couldn't recover. What we're finding is that neurons have ability to kind of improve themselves, and there is regenerative powers within the neurons. Now they haven't figured out how much time or anything else. Some amazing stuff out there for that. One of the books I've read, it's called The Brain That Changes Itself. It's fantastic. It's a guy that literally figured out Parkinson's stroke and why we are so good at them now in the medical world. People that had strokes, it's so different than 10 years ago because we've learned how to really rehab this stuff. And by the ability to that rehab to be there right when it starts happening, the nerve regeneration that's occurring is phenomenal. All right, Ryan, you'll like this one. Muscle cells. Skeletal muscles, myocytes, have a limited capacity for regeneration. Satellite cells can repair or grow muscles, but this process is much slower in other tissues. Okay, so a lot of skeletal muscle, if you tear it, Ryan, in your biceps, my brother tore his biceps tendon years ago, and so it doesn't really regenerate, but then you have these satellite cells that can help repair it to give you the function of that muscle, right? So a torn muscle is a big deal. Just talked to a kid in the military this week, actually. He had a major hamstring problem, and it's caused him like some low back stuff and, those kind of things. What I worry about that a lot of times, if you don't get repaired correctly or rehabbed correctly in a true sprain, pulled hamstring, that can be such a tough thing, because I've seen one kid was really good athlete at a really small school, tore his hamstring, but they didn't have a trainer or anything. And he thought he would be tough, never really rehabbed it. The muscle of the belly of his hamstring literally became a bone. And that's what was fascinating about the whole thing. He had to have it removed because it ended up being such a big issue. Heart cells. This one's cool. Heart cells historically thought to have little or no regeneration, but emerging research also indicates that cardiac regeneration it does occur, and it's very slow though. So it's a very slow pace. like everything else, the good stuff, sometimes you got to wait for. I think this is it. Okay. So those are all the different areas, but every one of those guys is cells repairing themselves, restoring back to the function that it can do at that time. Now, I'm going to use this analogy. When cells repair themselves or regenerate and go beyond and regenerate new cells in the same area, think about creating a copy. You put your original on the copier, and then you start to copy, the next paper. At first, the first original copy that you make is really, really close to the original. But as we live and as those cells regenerate, you start noticing that the copier's running out of ink, or it's not connecting right, or you start seeing little lines here and there on those kind of things. So the more and more we age, the more that copier starts to copy. And that's one major reason why the reason why you want to stay healthy and in a restorative fashion as long as you can, as young as you can, because every time your ability to change those cells over and over again, you get a new copy. Well, how did your old copy look? Right? So that makes it a tougher issue, right? So that it makes it harder and longer time to restore. However, you can restore it. Think of the American pickers, right? In your human body. Do you want to, is it a 69 Corvette that needs a paint job, still runs, has a couple things in the interior that it could use some love? Or is it been outside for 35 years and the window was open? Okay. That's what I'm talking about. That's the way to actually look at this year in your restoration. And we're going to go through some ways to kind of approach that as well. This is a broad overview, and the exact regeneration speed of all those they have numerous factors. So age, health statics, genetics, environmental conditions. So remember, all of those add to your cell regeneration. And so those, when they regenerate quickly or slow, it could have how it shows you how you're going to do, right? So when we do those things, when we start seeing that our body isn't actually restorative every hour, we're restoring things. And it's because of that restoration. If we start taking the care of ourselves every other day, right? Or every day in a different way, then we're going to start seeing a different situation, right? So then the other beautiful part is if you haven't taken care of the cells, right? So if you haven't been taking care of the cells, let's say you smoke 3 cigarettes out of both mouths and have 2 coming out of your nose, and then you hit 8 things of whiskey while you're going to get an energy drink and a Twinkie. Okay. Those are all things that are reversible. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's going to take some work, but we're going to have to, that's where we could start with a new cell pattern and a new original to that copy. Okay. Okay. So give your body the best chance at restoring itself. Make your physical body do the perfect amount of movement as well as rest. Okay. So it's not about just beating the crap out of your entire body until you get the body what you want it to look like. We have to be masters at the rest and the recovery as well. So once you become masters at, like Ryan in the chat, he is very, very good at the weightlifting part. He always has been. Recovery, he struggles a little bit, right? So once he starts to understand the recovery aspect of things, once he starts getting the right amount for him, he's going to, have those cells respond to that, and you'll even do more. That's what's so crazy about it. So when you're talking about a kid, let's say you got a kid that's a super good athlete and you just have him punched all the time. He's going, kid loves it. He's going. And then all of a sudden you see him get worse. You're like, how did the kid, he's done everything. He's done everything correct. He's got the right food. He's got the right exercise. Well, he's doing too much, because I got him in like 4 different sports, those kind of things. There's this time where there is no rest. There is no recovery time. So you can't have those cellular function. It's not always about pushing yourself to that nth degree. One of my favorite articles on this exact thing, before we move on to the next point, but one of the neatest articles I ever read was the champion barefoot 100-mile marathoner in a desert. Okay, so he won the 100-mile barefoot run in the desert. And if it was like, what was your secret? He had never ran 100 miles until he got to the event. Think about that. So he had not ran more than 100 miles until he got to the event. And I was like, then it just hooked me. So I'm like, okay, what did this guy do? What he did was he would run 3 miles as hard as he possibly could on bare feet at like it's the last 3 miles of the 100-mile, right? And he kept doing that every day. 3 miles as hard, like a dead sprint, okay? Once he got there, one of the reasons he won was because he had enough recovery and energy stores left to where the last 90 miles, or I'm sorry, the last 10 miles of this 100-mile thing, he blew everyone away, because a lot of people were doing 100 miles barefoot and they had depleted their energy stores. And that's somewhere you don't want to go, and they're learning this more and more, that there has to be this really good balance of things when we're at this super high athlete level. I'm saying watch it as you go we don't have to be these great athletes all the time. Okay. So that one, hopefully that inspires somebody. Take these proper supplements and herbal remedies to allow your body's cells to shine. So why not give your bodies the ability to have every cell in your body, have the best chance? Tonight, let's see if I got it. Tonight, my tea, right? My herbal tea is called Yolruthro. What it is remember ashwagandha and astragalus. It's in this thing called the adaptogens category. The adaptogens herbals are basically love to every cell in your body. They're not specific to certain things, but they allow these functions to happen. So like this is one herb that tries to help the entire human body. So a general one. Now, let's say your family struggles with heart issues. Well, why wouldn't you do some supplementation to make sure that your heart has everything, like the CoQ10s of the world, fish oils and the resveratrol. Resveratrol is a really good one. Berries, having more raspberries and blueberries. Fantastic amount of stuff for your heart there, right? So maybe breaking down, okay, I want to make sure my heart cells can regenerate, right? Or have the best chance at a good regenerative copy the next time they have to regenerate, right? So if you have a skin problem, right, what's the best things for skin? So make sure we're taking herbs and those kind of things that kind of help regenerate that skin. So that is a good thought process when you're choosing things, right? So if you're like, I want my skin's not looking the greatest, I got psoriasis or something, why not look up some herbs that you could take? Not that you're treating it, you're just saying, okay, I'm going to give my skin the best chance it can, right? So that's a really good way. Have the right mental space to allow your body to react to stress the right way. Many times you can cause your cellular healing to happen with a good mindset. And that's what we kind of go through tonight. When I want you to think restoring this year, I'm going to restore my body to that function that I've always wanted. A couple ones that are pretty good. Get your spine checked. So chiropractic, we love to restore your spinal function back to its original spot. That's the entire premise of chiropractic, which is awesome. Get your muscles checked. This is kind of a interesting one, but important. Get your muscles checked for possible imbalances that could be happening in there. Okay. So that happens a lot more than you think. It can save you a lot of headaches, as you go. So making sure, your both hamstrings are even and stretched and, flexible that way. Excuse me. One that's really cool, and you may need some help as well as a lot of those different ones, is get your movement patterns evaluated. So, one of the things that happened to me that I wish I wasn't so ego-y back in the day when I was a kid was that I walked like a duck. Not a lot of people knew my first name was Jeremy because it was so easy to say duck in all the sports I played. Well, I would waddle pretty hard. I tried to be as fast as I could with my feet kicking out. And what they mean by that is like your feet are kind of out like this. Once I learned the patterning of actually walking correctly, where your heel, side of your foot, toe off, right? So once I learned the actual gait function, which is a learned behavior, the amount of pressure and torque on my knees changed dramatically. And it was knowledge. It was knowledge that understood that. So a lot of times I got my feet evaluated by, at the time I had this knee injury in college football. And I had one of the best physical therapists of all time. She walked me through that. Amazing. She was tough. Oh, it was just great. But she really had a thing about walking straight with your heel, side of your foot, toe, and making this nice flowing motion with your foot. Once I started doing that, I felt like I could do almost any movement ever. Okay. So these are some things to look at. Eat or clean organic food and with great energy to it. So one of the things that I like doing is this muscle testing technique that we do at the office. It kind of brings up, we do it and it's kind of like, I call it like acupuncture without needles. But it's a muscle testing way to do stuff. One of the neatest things about this is that this muscle testing can prove that food has some beautiful energy to it. So that's why I always recommend growing something of your own, right? So it doesn't have to be a full garden, but what if you did, your own tomatoes or something you could do on a daily basis that you could just grab and go, like cucumbers for me are always a thing because you can just go to the garden, grab them, and they never stop growing. That kind of thing. Stuff you can do without a lot of things. That energy off of that piece of food is off the chart. So hopefully, I think that's it. Actually, let me make sure. Yep. So that was awesome. I hope you guys had a good time with it. I know I did. Let's see if I got any questions. Ryan, you guys, thank you for showing up tonight. That was awesome. And just remember that little full script thing. If you can figure out that QR code thing on the side. So remember, and also remember Wednesday night. So the Wednesday night, and then let me put in the comments actually before I take off. Rumble. I'm going to put our Rumble channel in. Okay. My channel. All right. Oh, there we go. So if you want to ever get... Julie's there. Yes. She's on the Rumble. Yeah. That's sweet. Thank you, Julie. I knew you were in there somewhere. I want you, when we come on first, Julie, I want you to make sure you comment right away. Okay, now that you know how, I see you in there now. That's awesome. We're learning as we go, baby. And that even goes for my chat people too. So some of these groups I go to, that is phenomenal. They get all these really cool questions. That's my ultimate goal, is to have, like a night where it's just Q&A back and forth. So it's I want that, like I want us to feel powerful in the next years to come. We have a lot of things that we all have to go on this journey together with, right? So just remember that. And then the other one, if you want to get on our I'm going to put it in the chat. So this is, you'll see tribe1.substack.com, get you on our email list. And I only use that for when I go live on this. Okay. Sometimes I'll throw an article on there though. It's kind of fun. Or I'll write something if I'm like gone or something like that. But just remember that Substack. I am in love with this whole process. I'm kind of addicted. That's why the Wednesday thing happened. So just let you know that that's why that occurred. And I love you all. And we will see you either Wednesday or Sunday. Next week will be a little tension because the Lions didn't have to play this week because they did so good last week. It's fantastic. Go Lions. Have a nice night.